So I've been getting a lot of questions just kind of about my cancer diagnosis and how I found it. So I thought that I would sit down and just kind of do a video about my whole story up to now. So at the beginning of May, I noticed a lump on my breast. So we went to my GYN. She referred me to get an ultrasound, and nothing showed up on the ultrasound. So we were like, okay, they told me to just keep an eye on it, so we kept an eye on it. They told me it was just a fibroadenoma. It wasn't really anything to be concerned about. So fast forward from May to July, it went from the size of a lima bean in May to the size of an egg in July. So we went back to my GYN. She sent me back to the imaging place to get an ultrasound and a mammogram. So stuff showed up this time, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna send you to get a biopsy just so that we can be sure that it's nothing, if it's nothing. I had the biopsy on a Monday, and then on that following Wednesday, I got a phone call from the breast surgeon, and she was like, hey, are you good to talk right now? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'm just driving. So she was like, okay, well, we got the results of your biopsy back, and it was positive for cancer. And I was like, I don't think I said anything for a little bit. I didn't know what to say. I was definitely shocked. So when I got off the phone with her, I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, my biopsy results came back and they're positive for cancer. And she just kind of did the same thing I did. She didn't know what to say. We got home, we had the conversation about whether I was gonna have a single mastectomy or a double mastectomy, which is where they take your boobs off. So I decided to have a double mastectomy because I didn't want to risk having cancer coming back in the other side. So some people choose to just have the surgery on the one side, remove the cancer, remove the tissue, and then have an implant in one side so that the other side isn't touched. I decided I wanted both taken off. I wasn't going to risk going through this again. So my parents were very relieved that I decided to do that because I'm giving myself the best chance of not having cancer again. And so after that, we had an appointment with my breast surgeon, I think it was the next day, to talk about next steps. So we went and we talked to her, and I told her that I wanted to have the double mastectomy, and like a huge wave of relief just came over her face because she knew that having a double mastectomy was the best decision, and she wasn't going to push that on me, but she was very relieved that I made that decision on my own. And then on August 8th, I had the double mastectomy. So they went in, and my breast surgeon, she took the tissue out of both breasts. She went on this side where my cancer was and looked at my lymph nodes. I had 3 sentinel lymph nodes out of 4 that were positive for cancer. So my cancer was obviously very aggressive. After the surgery, they sent my tumor off to be looked at again to get its pathology so we could know for sure what was feeding it, what the cell type was, and if they got clean margins. We found out that my tumor is a very, very, very rare cell type. It's seen more commonly in ovarian cancer, but not really in breast cancer. It's called glycogen-rich clear cell carcinoma. There has been one case study of women with breast cancer with this cell type, and it has 150 people in it and no one under the age of 50. So it's super rare. To begin with, I was already stumping my doctors and surgeons and everyone with the fact that I'm a 20-year-old with breast cancer. On top of that, I have an incredibly rare breast cancer. And so because of that, we went to Vanderbilt for a second opinion. He agreed with what my oncologist here in Chattanooga recommended, which was doing ACT, which is adriamycin, Cytoxan, and Taxol. Those are 3 different types of chemo that are typically used to treat breast cancer. And then on top of the ACT, he suggested that we do carboplatin, which is usually used for ovarian cancer, and it would target my cancer in a way that the ACT wouldn't. So I did the adriamycin and the Cytoxan first. Those were not fun. Don't recommend. Would never do again. Not that I would ever do chemo again, but I was sick for a week after I would get treatment, and I'd be fine the next week, and then I would get treatment. So I would get it every 2 weeks. The adriamycin is also known as the red devil. They call it that because the chemo itself is red and it makes you so sick. I was nauseated, incredibly tired, really weak. I had really bad body aches. Just wasn't a fun time. After the AC, the adriamycin and the Cytoxan, I started the Taxol. So that's what I'm on right now. The Taxol, it makes me tired and it makes me weak, but nothing like the adriamycin and the Cytoxan. The main thing that I've noticed is just the weakness and the fatigue. So we wanted to make sure that I was tolerating the Taxol well before we started the carboplatin, because the Taxol was more important than the carbo. So we had to watch my white counts to make sure that they didn't drop. And then once they kind of stabled out, we added the carbo. So I did Taxol once a week, every week, and I still am doing Taxol once a week, every week, and I have 12 treatments of that. And then we added the carbo probably around my 4th treatment, and I'll do that until I finish the Taxol. And the carbo, it's not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be easy breezy, not beautiful, but easy breezy like the Taxol, and let me tell you what, it is not. I am very tired all the time. I'm having to adjust to the carbo. I thought that I was like out of the woods with the Taxol. I thought that I was gonna be not Jim Dandy, but Jim Dandy considering the circumstances, but I'm not. Other than just being like exhausted and tired and all of that good stuff, I'm tolerating them very well. I am not terribly sick. I can still do a lot of the stuff that I enjoy doing. So once we kind of figured out the whole chemo thing with my oncologist, we had to start thinking about radiation. We talked to a radiologist here in Chattanooga, and my dad asked him about proton beam therapy radiation, which is different than traditional radiation. The fact that I'm so young and my breast cancer is left-sided, which is the side that your heart's on, they wanted to be incredibly careful about where the radiation is going, because radiation to your heart and lungs it's not good. So if I had radiation to my heart, it could cause a lot of heart problems down the road in my future, and we're trying to get rid of medical problems and not add them. Traditional radiation kind of sprays. It enters and exits. But then with proton beam, they can kind of be more specific about where it goes, so they can direct it exactly where they need it to be, and then they can stop the beam. So instead of it like passing through, it stops so that it won't affect my heart. They don't offer proton therapy here in Chattanooga for breast. So we started looking elsewhere. My dad and I went to MD Anderson to get a consult with the radiation oncologist there. She said that it's a big deal that I get proton therapy versus traditional therapy. So your girl will be in Houston for 2 months. I hope I answered a lot of your questions, and let me know what you want to hear next.